All right. All right, so what things are you struggling with React, with Redux, with context? I'd like to do that before we jump into something else. Played with it enough?
That's gonna take me a while. It's gonna take me a second to keep going over it, so
I
I
watched
wait,
them all twice and I'm still feeling really lost.
I'm on 20 something and I'm like.
Which part makes you feel lost?
Actually, I took notes on like the first really easy and then I just kind of gave up. But, I don't know, it was really confusing, like, I feel like I did the state tree, the actions. I don't really remember much about pure impure functions.
Okay.
All the store methods and stuff, I'm very confused about what is, like, the store methods and, cause a lot of them are named the same, so he would be like there's Redux and then there's Redux React or React Redux and
Mm-hmm.
the different types of dispatches and it's pretty, confusing.
Okay. So the only store function I can think of that you will use is dispatch. And create store maybe, but dispatch is the only one that comes from the store. And the way we did it, we used dispatch hook that will automatically get that. So React Redux is, so let's do this. Redux is just the state manager. It can work in any application you want. It doesn't have to be React. Okay, it just has to have a way to get the store and set up the store, and then the store is somewhere. Okay, so what React Redux is it takes Redux and puts the store on context, okay, and creates a provider that you put around your app, and it's using React context to do this. So that when you go down into the levels and you need that Redux store, then that use dispatch is just getting the store off of context and then getting the dispatch function from it and giving it back to you. That's coming from the provider. So React Redux is just that provider. It just ties Redux to React so that you don't have to sit and push your store down level after level after level. Does that make sense? So in our app that we made, we have our React Redux import here of the provider. And remember, we made our own provider with context. That's all of this is the same thing. It just puts the store, so you're handing it the store, and it just takes that store and puts it in context, so that when I come down to my joke.js and I take use dispatch and use selector from React Redux again, then these hooks go and get from context the dispatch and the state. Does that make sense? And then it'll run your function on state, it will give you the dispatch. But that's all React Redux does, is it takes your store and puts it on context and allows you to select from it or get the function from the store. Okay, so the Redux side of it is pretty much just this toolkit piece, and the store.js is what we're pulling from it. So we configure a store and we make a slice or an async thunk.
And store is a part of Redux?
Yes, the store is Redux. The provider is React Redux, which is just a library to help you use Redux in React. But you could use Redux in Vue, you could use Redux in Angular, you could use it with vanilla JavaScript. It's agnostic to frameworks. So that's why you need that React Redux to tie it together. On the
Once it
eggheads?
started- Yeah,
Yeah,
once
then
it
it started
started getting into,
compounding.
I don't know, like, all these later ones, like avoiding array mutations, what was the basic composition thing, there was one in particular? The container components, right over my head.
Okay. So the idea behind a container component is you can select your state, right? And with this, we have the hook that we can go get state with. With the container components, he's using like a callback, right? Like he's wrapping the component in a use Redux or is it with Redux, I think is what it's called. From React Redux, there's like a function called with Redux. And what that did, is he using hooks in it? Maybe he's updated it to the hooks. How does he get the Redux story into the component? I assumed he wrapped it in a function. It was with Redux.
Visibility filters to read. I understood them, but it was kind of like a million and one ways to do the same thing. So it was constantly changing.
Right.
It was hard to keep up.
So the thing that he's doing with the container component though is there's this idea in the architecture of you have components that are connected to state and components that aren't. And when we use them at work, I call them smart components and dumb components instead of containers and right? So the smart components know what's going on with state. The dumb components know what's going on with props. So whatever props I give those dumb components, they'll always render the same thing. The smart components know, like, I want to go get these pieces of this state. I know what the state is, I know what parts I need, I go get them, and then I use all these dumb components and I pass that state to those dumb components. Okay?
I'm trying to think how that goes up with what he was talking about with the language. He was talking about, I think he used it, presentational
Yeah.
something and something else.
Presentational and container, probably, right?
No, presentational and something along the lines of like functional or.
It's a language thing.
Presentation was basically just like how it looks, and then it was like the actual like action maybe or function, action and function.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know if that's what he was referring to.
But that's what those containers are.
Okay.
Is typically the container is, all it does is go get the state you need and then pass it to another component that takes it as props. And that's all the container does. And that one's typically wrapped in a higher order component that's called with state or with Redux maybe from React Redux.
With, W-I-T-H?
Maybe he changed it so it uses the hooks. But how does he get the state with React Redux? Oh, it's this connect function.
Connect. That's a good one.
In the previous lesson, I added React Redux bindings to the project, and it returns the props paired with the front street, and returns.
Okay, so you have the connect function that you wrap your component in, and then you have this map state to props function that you pass it, and it gets the state. And so this is very similar to like the use state or the use selector that we pulled out of React Redux. It's kind of the same function here. You get state, you pull the pieces you want out, and you return them. Okay, and then what happens is that connect function takes those pieces of state and sends them to your component as props. Does that make sense? So it's good to know how to do this, but with the more modern hooks version, you don't need to do this anymore. Yeah, you get the connect right here, and then he's adding connect and passing those in, and then I assume that he'll have the component come after.
So connected is with Redux.
Yeah, it's I thought it was with Redux, but it's Connect. The one that I was thinking of was the React router used to do the same kind of thing. So you had a higher order component that was called with router, and you'd wrap your function in with router, and then that would give you the router props. So this was all before hooks, and now that there's hooks, then you can just go and use the hooks to pull most of the things out of React Router and Redux, and you don't have to do it this way anymore. So some of this is a little outdated. I'd hoped that he had updated it.
We can do that, but that's not a good way to do it. Let's do it this way.
Like we did.
This will be a thing you will fight the entire time you work in dev. Is it will constantly change, and there will constantly be something new and a new way to do it, and so it's fun. It's just lots of fun. So getting used to looking up documentation and learning it.
That's the part that I'm really excited to get good at.
Yeah.
Because I feel like once I find good resources on things, then it makes my life so much easier. But it's really hard for me. Yeah.
I'm still comfortable on Tailwind. Bring on some Tailwind.
So, yeah, I think that the other video I posted later, this Learn Modern Redux video, even though it does TypeScript, I think this one will be more along the lines of what you're used to seeing.
And he was doing a different language too, right?
No, he was just doing JavaScript.
Oh,
He was
I-
using the older component.
wasn't
class
that
components?
stuff? He was doing like
And I,
Oh, so he was doing require. Is that right?
It would be like, he would use const
Uh huh. And
instead
then
of
like
import.
const redux equals require redux.
Maybe it
and
was
I'll
one.
be honest, when people have that accent, it makes it a little bit more difficult for me.
Yeah.
When it's reading some of the Indian accent, because they'll say certain things that I'm used to hearing a certain way, so I have to go back and play it again, because I'm like, did you just say,
Yeah.
how do you say this?
So do what you can of this egghead one. Watch this modern redux one for sure.
Yeah.
And then you can go back and reference this one, but he does use like class components instead of function components. We've pretty much just done function components. I never write a class component anymore. I haven't for probably 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, I was unfamiliar. I was like, what?
So, so I didn't teach class components. I think I showed them to you guys one day, and then we moved on. So, but like I said, I haven't written a class component in at least 4 years. So, yeah. The only time you might need them is if you work for a company that's using older versions of React, or they're like that's the architecture they want to do is the class components. But
Yeah, function is so much better.
yeah, the function components are, and the hooks make it so that you don't need
You
class
don't need
components.
Exactly.
So before hooks, you did need class components in order to do anything with context and state. There wasn't a way to do state within function components because there wasn't a use state. So hooks brought about a bunch of stuff to allow you to do. That's why they were smart components and dumb components, right? So with hooks, it's a little bit less, the line's a little more blurred between the smart and dumb components, because I will typically just be like, well, this component renders that, and I know it has to get this from props, or from state, so rather than pass it from somewhere up higher, I'll just pull state there. So,
It was really confusing towards the end too because the whole purpose of it is so that you don't have to pass the props down to all of the different things. But then we ended up having to do that for something, like the store or whatever.
mhm.
So
I think he was
was doing-
showing you different methods of getting the store down. So he was saying you can pass the store down as props, because that's how you would do it without the React Redux thing. Or you can create your own context and pass your own context in, or you can use React Redux, which uses context to do it for you. So he was showing just different methods of doing it. So Redux Toolkit is what we're using for the most part, and they also have, almost all of these libraries have very good documentation. So you can go and look up Redux Toolkit. I'll throw it in the resources. But this would be another good thing to go and read and to understand what's happening here and how it works. So this will go over, it has tutorials, it has TypeScript stuff if you want to learn TypeScript. It's got all sorts of stuff. So we might end up rushing on TypeScript just a little bit before the end, but I won't require any of your stuff to be in TypeScript. So
This TypeScript.
we talked about TypeScript at some point. I showed some stuff.
But that was,
It was like kind of early on.
Is that an app?
It's more strict.
It's just JavaScript.
Oh,
It just you have to compile it.
sorry. Okay, now I
yeah.
Yeah, you have to compile it, and then it compiles back to JavaScript. So if you use it in React and you set up your React app as a TypeScript React app, you don't have to ever worry about any of the compilations. But if you're just writing TypeScript and you're writing like a vanilla JavaScript app, then you have to constantly, you have to set up your own environment to have it compile. So, let's see. Did everybody have a chance to look at this big project?
Which one is that?
This is the Kanban. So this is the project that is due. It's due in 3 weeks. Okay. So this will work. Have you guys? I know Kamani has seen Trello before. Trello?
Yeah.
You've seen Trello? Seen Trello? You used a Kanban app ever?
No.
Trello, Asana, these are what they're like project management apps.
Nope.
You can do Kanban for it.
Maybe I have, but I didn't know what it was. Let's go that way.
Alright, so
The lady was familiar. The guy was trouble.
so here's Trello, okay? You have different boards. You can add new ones. You can take stuff and drag it to other pieces.
Oh, you're doing Scrum? Today you're doing Scrum?
Yeah, we set up the Scrum board. You can click on it and see details, add dates, do all sorts of stuff. So, yeah, most of this is out of date because we haven't been using it. So, but yeah, this is essentially what we're building. This one has different boards. Okay, so you have where you can create a new board. It's got the boards that you've already created. Then it has the different lists and then the cards within them. And you should be able to drag these from one to another. It's got this new column button over here that you click and it creates a new column. Okay,
And the boards change the list.
the boards change the list.
or
Yeah, so if you go to a different board, then it would be, unless you set up the exact same list, but yeah, it would have different lists and different columns and different items, right? So yeah, if we went here, if I went to this operations one, now I have this group of boards and lists, right? So there's a night mode and a dark and a light mode. This is the switcher here. There's this button to hide the sidebar, which I can't remember if there's a view for that. So I stole this from by looking around on the internet to try and find anybody that had built it. There's like one dude that hasn't actually built it, but had the designs sitting on his, or had some of the stuff sitting on his GitHub that he was trying to build it. So this is what it looks like when you hit this add new task. It has these fields in it. You're going to need to have a status, which is which of these columns it goes into on creation, right? Subtasks, description, and title. And then if you need more than 2 subtasks, there's a button to add additional subtasks. Okay, this is what the pop-up looks like once you've clicked on one that's created. So you'd see all the subtasks. It doesn't have it here, but it seems like you should be able to add more subtasks. Maybe this has an edit behind it, and you just get that same form that you had on create. Okay, status here, you can change it to get it to move. I'd like you to work on drag and drop. You can use a library to do that. This is what a mobile view would look like. It is ugly. So I think they essentially kind of just patterned it after what Trello does. So here's Trello on my mobile.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah, it is nice.
Well, 'cause it's like
Yeah.
showing the subtasks and it's a bar or whatever, or a
yeah,
column.
I think it could be smaller. So
Yeah,
that's,
right.
this shows that I have subtasks, but it's a lot smaller.
Right.
So, yeah, we can play around with the mobile view, and the tablet view looks like this, which is essentially just this really doesn't become smaller, right?
So are we trying to make it interactive in the same way that like Trello was just now on the phone?
Yeah,
Like
drag and drop.
selecting them?
Oh yeah. So you can just, I mean, this is essentially what they've done is they've just made it so it scrolls horizontally.
Yeah.
And then if you're on mobile, then you get this little guy here, which makes this slide out.
It's weird that the arrow is pointing down.
Yeah, can you go back and, so the platform launch, that's gonna pull out the other boards though?
So you just pull that. Yeah, I don't know if it would. I don't have a design for that. Like for what it when you click it, I have no idea. And I don't want to pay for
No,
front end mentor. So
it's fine, just,
I do have these.
what I'm
So-
wondering is it okay if we make it styled?
However you want.
Because, yeah, I think that was just,
Whatever is styled on the page, like this.
yeah.
I feel like I'd like this to look like this. You know, these forms to look like this. I'd like the desktop to look this way. If you would like to change the mobile to be more compact, I'm fine with that. Maybe show less of this one so you can show more of this one. I don't really care. You can have this 3 dots thing show the different boards, or the platform launch do the different boards. I don't know what they were intending the 3 dots to even do, because it shows on all of them. So,
Just be a setting or something.
yeah. So, yeah. You should be. This is the biggest project you will build until your final project. Okay, here's all the statuses of the different buttons. So you have your primary button, large and small, secondary button. This is what they look like on hover, and then a destructive button. If you need like a slimmer button, I think there might be some places where there's like, this is the big button and this is the small button. That's the big button. This isn't really a button. I think this is just kind of mimics the look of the button. I wouldn't use a button component there. But yeah, you do have a bigger button here and a smaller button here, right? So probably on mobile, you'd use the smaller button in most places as well. Once again, there's no design here for the modal, or like how you would do this. I would do a full page modal on mobile and on tablet even. Well, tablet you might get away with the same modal that you're already using, but I would just make it on.
Yeah, you mean that, where they have like the little, right there, yeah, high slide bar.
Yeah, so if you click this,
Yeah.
this changes it from dark mode to light mode.
Yeah.
Yeah, theming, and then this just makes this sidebar slide out.
Mm.
And it doesn't have a design of how to get it back out, so, yeah, maybe that's what this was. So, I don't know. Yeah, it's up to you. I could just do a hamburger, but I think a hamburger would be dumb.
Yeah.
Alright, this assets zip, you could do the hamburger, just don't use the hamburger.
That's fine.
I think the slide is good. I would just slide the whole thing, as opposed to sliding over the top. I'd slide the whole thing,
Oh, yeah.
and then let somebody pick, and then would slide closed and go to wherever you're going. I don't think I would do the 3 lines anywhere. I would probably use, whatever the crap this is
Mm.
to make that slide out, and I don't think I would do this. I think this feels stupid.
I would like to put an arrow sideways.
Yeah, there's just not room. Where would you put it?
Even if you put it there, it would still.
It would look dumb to have an arrow here because it would be over the top of something.
Minimal effects.
Nah,
I mean, what is the point of
Oh,
straight
on
lines at the top
mobile,
of that?
I wouldn't do the
Oh,
arrow.
isn't that like that's a logo, but
Oh,
that's
it is
part of it.
like
It's
one.
part of the logo now.
That is
You can
dumb.
hide it.
Yeah,
So the logo Kaban is okay.
yeah. This is the logo. This is the name of the board.
Yeah. Platform launch.
And then when you're on mobile, you only see the name of the board.
Yeah.
So my guess is that what they were expecting you to do is to click here and it has like a drop down
Right. Exactly. That's
that
what
has
I
the
would-
different boards, and you can change your board there,
Right.
since this is the board name,
Right. So that's what
which
the arrow
I'm
down
totally
is.
agree with that too.
That's usually what arrow down is. It's just the change.
Yeah. So there's also the light mode of what this should look like, and I copied all the colors up here for you and gave you the link to the font that they're using. Assets has all the icons that you should need. So
Did you put that on there?
yeah, I went and found this from somewhere else and just I just grabbed it all. So and copied pasted crap. So the only place I really see icons is like here
Mhm.
and here and here, right? There might be some, I guess, in the modals. Yeah, there's X's, this little drop down guy maybe. I think there was a bunch of chevrons in the assets. 3 dots is probably an icon. What? Yes.
No, behind, under the task, there's like 0 of 2 subtasks, blah, blah of 2 subtasks.
Yes. That just tells you what how many subtasks are in it.
Are we doing that?
Yes. So yeah, if I go back to Trello, Trello, like this, they just show like, I think that one has subtasks maybe. Nope, that one has a description. Here's a card with subtasks. Okay, and then if we add checklist. Okay, then Trello shows you this thing.
Can you see what the subtasks look like on the Kanban board?
Yes. Once you click into it, that's this view,
Oh.
and these are the subtasks.
Oh,
And then this is the description, this is the title, and this is the status is whatever column it's in. So when you're creating it, you have the title, the description, 2 subtasks is what it starts with. If they don't fill everything out in here, right, then you wouldn't use them. These are optional. These are probably all required. I think, on Trello, only the title is required. You can add all the rest of it if you want, but you only need the title. And then the thing it doesn't have is there's no way to comment on any of these, so it won't be as intense as like a Trello or an Asana where there's commentability and whatever. This is just, here's my task, here's some subtasks for it, and you'll be able to check them off. The thing is, I would like you to have this saved to local storage so that all of your boards and your columns and your tasks live in local storage.
So when we connect from storage to these,
What?
what to do with that?
Uh-huh.
Is it possible for us to connect it to it? I think it's possible.
I mean, I don't see any reason you would do that.
It's the function. To use it.
Yeah, I see no reason you would want to do that. They're different applications.
literally just the subtasks is that entire freaking app
Yes.
that I spent a month making.
Yeah, I know, they wanna drag it on, they work so hard on that thing. Some other people, they just gave it.
So it's not as big a deal as you think.
It's just gonna be a lot of little pieces inside.
Yeah, a lot of little pieces. Break it down into smaller things.
Mm-hmm.
Good teaching, all good teaching, good learning.
Okay.
Meet up with your friends for coffee.
So, and I will help you with the data shape of what it should look like so that you can, I'll probably just give you like a giant thing of JSON that you can start with.
Okay.
But I would say just start building components to start and then hook the JSON in after.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. Any questions on any of the views?
Nope.
Biggest thing I think is going to be, I think there's a React drag and drop that you can use.
So that's cool. That answered that question, John.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. They might even have like a Kanban board. Maybe it's this one.
Do you have like, how is this set up? Like, do you set something that's like, you can click and drag this piece, and then we have like a receptor for it too?
Across different things.
Because, well, yeah, there's the cross different boards aspect, and then there's also the like open and board. It's like, so you have to like order them by priority, for example.
Yeah, so that would be the sortable, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, which allows you to do this.
Looks like that, especially in the
Yeah.
It's like pretty,
Okay, so this is one of them. There's a bunch of drag and drop stuff. So let's go back and we'll see. There was another one that was in the list when I
so that's like
searched.
a library of functions.
Well, it's just a library. So this is how you use it: is you install it, and then you would use drag from React DND. You get the drag ref and the opacity. So drag ref's going to be like this div with the text gets this drag ref, and now you can drag that div somewhere. Okay.
Is this also considered a plugin? Or is it?
That's different. You're talking like Redux plugins?
Oh, like, cause the hamburger was a plugin.
That was a library.
Oh, the library.
Mm-hmm. So this might be a. This one's made by Atlassian, who owns Trello, so this might be a better one. Let's see.
Wait, look at the top one.
Homies help homies always.
Yes.
Here you go.
Yelling at that on Wednesday. Leaving church.
Multiple vertical lists. Does this look familiar?
Yeah, a little bit. Not a little bit.
Yeah. Stress test is like because they put a ton of stuff out on the page, and they're showing you all the different ways you can use it. Right? This one has. So they're showing you that it can. Epsilon? Okay, so this might be the better drag and drop to use. This React Beautiful D&D. Okay, and it has a bunch of. I mean, this is technically the documentation around it. Is you can come here and see. Okay, this is how you do this. If I wanted tables, if I wanted portals, whatever that is. Super simple. On drag start. Okay. Well, it has like something set so that it toggles the drop. If every other time it's toggling it. So just to show you what it looks like on each one. Here's a simple board. So under the board stuff. And then usually this has documentation within it somewhere. But maybe this one doesn't. So go back to the. So here's all the documentation. Okay, you've got guides on how to do whatever stuffs, patterns, support. Okay, so you have this drag drop context that gives you on drag start, all these functions. You can have draggables around stuff. So what I would say to do is to build out all your components And then when you're starting to put them together in the page is when I would bring this draggable in, because you throw that draggable around it, and then I think that there must be a droppable area. So multi-drag, tables, reparenting. Okay, so I will post this in the resources, but if you look under Storybook, this is what the documentation is for this. Like, this is all the code for this piece, is in this Storybook thing. So, it's not that one, it's the stories. Okay, so let's say we wanted to look at this board, the simple board. That's essentially what we need. If you look for simple board in here. About source. What's it under? Board. So under board. And then in here is how they're doing it. So, which they're using class components to do it. You don't have to have class components to do it, I'm sure. But you have the draggable location, result.source. Oh, is this TypeScript? Yes. No, this is not TypeScript. It is TypeScript. Why is it TypeScript and not? It's weird. Anyway. Okay, so you see you have droppable, and you have probably somewhere there's a draggable. This is your context, which is what wraps your board, right? So this would be kind of like a provider. It's going to go around whatever needs ability to get the state from the drag and drop. Okay, that makes sense? Okay, did I put this in the thing already? Okay, so, but like I said, I would get everything else done, and then drag and drop would be the last thing, because that's going to be the hardest part, is the drag and drop. So I'd pull that in.
How long did you say you did it?
Right now it's at 3 weeks,
Okay.
so definitely don't save this to the last minute, because you're going to need all 3 weeks. Okay, any other questions on it?
Should we shoot for like, I don't know if it's built in like this before, but I'm imagining it might be a lot of like small things that we're not running into that we're gonna be confused about.
Yes, there will be. So I would say start digging in quickly, so that at class we can go through questions that you have. And we'll use class
Thursday.
time. Yeah.
That's how we're gonna use class time for next week?
We'll use, I'll plan stuff to show you if nobody has questions, but I would plan to come to class with, this thing's not working, how do I do this? And then I'll build something that will do that. Okay? Cool. So I would suggest running the Create React app with the Redux template, because I think you'll want to have Redux actions and that state management,
Yeah.
because I'm assuming that when you drop one of these, so let's go. When you're taking this and dropping it here, I'm assuming that they also have like a on drop function that you can tie into, so that when a drop happens somewhere, you have a function you can call, and that way you can tell Redux Store that now this this card with ID 1, oh, what just happened?
Ooh,
I clicked it instead of,
Yeah, we can take it.
Discord.
where's the board now? Okay, so this has ID one, and so I'm assuming when I take this and drag it here, that now a function can fire off to say ID one, card ID one now lives within column ID four. So that when you're refresh or re-rendering this, you know where the data now should live. So it doesn't end up where I can refresh and it comes back to where it was. Right?
How do you do this on mobile?
You're gonna store all of your Redux state in local storage and then just read it from Redux state. So okay, so I will post this. There's probably a library that already does this. But essentially what you're trying to do is get some middleware that every time an action fires and state changes, that you're storing that to local storage. Okay, so by Googling around to figure out simplest way to persist Redux state, right? So, yeah, Redux local storage middleware. Look, there's a simple Redux local storage. There's one called save and one called load. So, yeah. So I would just, whenever you're using a NPM package, look at how many downloads it has. And I would say look around for the one that has the most downloads, right? So if I was, just because this guy got the name Redux Local Storage Simple, doesn't mean it's the best one, right? So if I Redux State Sync has, and you could say I want to do this by popularity, Redux Local Storage.
6 years ago.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, last published was 6 years ago, so may not work as well, but Redux hasn't really changed that much either, so I mean it's changed within the last 6 years, but if this is a good package, it may be fine. It gets 66,000 downloads a week, so
Still works.
maybe. It's also got
You say have reviews?
has 25 issues.
Oh, okay, so you do have reviews there.
This is like what people have said.
Okay, good.
I'd like you to do better documentation. How do you import an adapter? So there's an error in this. Weird warnings. There's 10 pull requests that are just sitting here. Some of them are very old from 2015.
Oh,
So this dude developed this for himself, threw it in open source, and then was like, I'm out. Yeah,
Had one project once.
yeah. Right? So this may not be the best one, right? This one was 6 months ago, this was 3 months ago. So, but this one only gets 21,000 downloads weekly. That's true. But I mean, like, let's look at Redux gets 8.2 million a week downloads. So, yeah,
Multiple people using
less than 100,000 downloads is not a ton of downloads because each time you run a new app and download it, it's gonna, right? So, or if I do an npm install and there's a newer version, it'll go download the newer version. So I could be 5 of those downloads a week, just myself.
So if they end up installing like one that you maybe doesn't work as well, is that going to
No, you just uninstall and do a different one. So,
prefer you to notice that sooner rather than later.
okay, so this one looks like it does a pretty good job. Lightweight middleware to sync your Redux state, gets 29,000 downloads. It was last published 3 months ago. You really just need something that will throw it in local storage and then pull it from local storage. It shouldn't have to be updated a ton. I would just, when you're looking, look at how many downloads it has, make sure it's not like minuscule. Make sure it doesn't have a ton of issues and that it's published recently-ish. So maybe that other one that hasn't published in 6 years is great. I don't know. So,
You did it once and you did it right.
yeah, maybe.
There you go.
So, yeah. Redux, remember, this one is not popular. Gets 84 downloads a week. So,
MIT.
what about MIT?
There's a license.
License.
Oh yeah, license MIT, you'll see a lot. It's an open source license.
Okay.
It means that you can use it for pretty much anything.
That's not like Massachusetts.
Yeah, MIT is who created the license,
Oh, okay.
so it's called the MIT license.
MIT
Anyone can use it.
open source license.
Yeah, MIT made an open source license that people use all the time.
That's cool.
It's cool.
So,
Good for MIT. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it makes you think they
I
give
got
you
an
the
MIT
stamp,
license.
the stamp of approval.
Yeah.
yeah.
Non-technical as well.
Wow.
I can get that stamp.
Me 20 minutes ago would have been like,
So, ISC,
What is ISC?
it's just a different
This
license.
is a different license.
So if you're worried about the license, so for this project, you don't have to worry about the licenses. But if you go to the project and go to the license file, this will tell you,
Oh,
oh,
okay.
see, this is an MIT license. It said it was ISC, but it's MIT. So I'm assuming his package JSON said it was ISC. Yeah, his package JSON says ISC,
I see.
but his actual license is an MIT. Yeah, which means that if you used this and he tried to come after you, he really wouldn't have a leg to stand on because he has 2 different licenses listed. Right?
Accepted.
But both of these licenses are like, you can use it. Yeah. So, free of charge to any person obtaining a copy of the software associated to deal in the software without restriction, including without limitation the rights to use the copy, modify, merge, publish, distribute, sub-license, and or sell copies of the software, and to permit persons to, this is pretty much do whatever the crap you want with it. And it's provided as is, so it's at your own risk to use it. This is a very common license. So. Yeah. So if we go look at like so React is an MIT license. I think Redux is as well. Facebook made React, by the way. Did I ever tell you that? This isn't the real Redux. their license is MIT. So it's a pretty standard license. If you create something open source, you need to license it. Otherwise, people may not use it because they're afraid that there's no license on it, and you could come after them possibly. So, yeah, find something to allow yourself to store in local storage. I'll work on the data and get you data for this. And then, because that is something that I don't have, and Front-End Mentors IO gives you a data object for it. So I'm just gonna do that as well. So I'll give you data, and you're welcome to use mine or create a different one if you would like. Any other questions on it? Okay. Oh, I should probably delete that card. So, as far as like tasks within it, I think if you hit this, it should give you an edit option that just shows you this. And maybe if you've already created it, instead of create task, you have a save task or a red delete task button that would just take it out.
So question on modules,
Yeah.
is that going to be in the component, like, wherever the button is that's inactivated, or
Could be if you want it to be,
is it gonna be
because
separate?
this would be here. What I would do is I'd have just a single modal inside your app somewhere that is tied to a context, like to Redux state.
Okay.
And then when you click one of these, it would send that object to that Redux state, and then the modal would know to open and which piece of state to show. So, which we can do an example of that at some point. So what I'll do is I'll try and plan some different components that we can build that will mimic some of this stuff. Cool. So let's take a small break, and then we can build some stuff in React. Cool.
Just code.
What are you doing, Travis?
Turning it down.
Yay. Ooh, everybody's cold. Let's just turn it off.
Yeah, there you go. Turn it off. A bit, at least. So it warms up in this place a little bit. So yeah, I got the, I got your proposal or your suggestion.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, she asked me about it today. It's something I totally didn't even think about because she just started the business. But I knew, you know, so which, I mean, there's a lot of good reasons to do it
Mm-hmm.
because, it's new and, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of flexibility there. It would have been nice to connect with him on the bookstore, but yeah.
I think the one thing that will be hard with a new business is they don't have any branding.
Yeah. Exactly.
So you're gonna have to come up with the branding for
Yep.
it too.
And I have no problem with that because it's, like I said, it's wearing many hats and, you know, for a first project, you know, at least I get a lot of stuff out of the way, a lot of questions, so, you know, there's things I'm gonna have to learn on the fly and I'm okay with that.
So
I just didn't like, I should have been the one to ask me, that's all. You know, you're not looking at that,
oh,
yeah, they can't, you know, that's my deal, that's my business.
my guess is she asked me so that she wouldn't come and ask you and then have me say no.
Yeah. Yeah. So, this is part of the practice. I need all the, you know, the proposals, you know, this communication between, don't be cutting no corners, don't be nobody hold nobody's hand. And at this stage, I need to do everything alone.
So what is everybody's thoughts on this project itself? Not like the complexity, but is the project something you're interested in building, or would you have rather I did like a marketing site for this project?
On the marketing side?
Yeah, like a big marketing site, so it's got I can show you some other options that we could do.
I like this project, so to answer your question.
Yeah, me too.
I like it
I like the way
because
it
you
is.
can build off of the stuff that
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And
That's kind of why I chose it,
Yeah, it's kind of like
because this
Refresh for our
feedback
site.
app was the other one I was looking at, which is similar-ish to things that we built, but has more concepts that we haven't really delved into.
no, I like the Kanban because we can actually put in, in the data, we can put in like the next steps of like what is done.
Right,
that's nice.
right.
Yeah.
You can use it to dog food your own app.
Yeah.
So this is like what I was thinking as something instead, right? You have like this
That's cool. I like it.
a marketing-ish site. This one has where you can go shop and add stuff to a cart. So it has this concept of a cart here and different product
Still stuff that we've
things.
done.
So like,
Has a checkout flow.
Oh, that's good. I know, right? Next level. Amazon.
would you see
This is
that?
good for my, chicken shop.
So like your bookstore one will probably be more something like this, right?
Yeah.
I don't know, Kamali, if you're planning to have much more than just it be like a marketing brochure. Okay. I'm not sure what they want as far as the T one, if it's just gonna be more of a, you're gonna write me a
Yeah,
proposal
I'm
for
gonna
it.
proposal. I'm gonna go talk to her about it and see what it is that she's looking for.
Okay.
And I'll come back with you.
Is it time for us to start talking about?
Well, his is his wife, so,
Starting from scratch too, so.
yeah, once so I haven't got Sharice's yet, but then I was gonna meet up with Rich and go over them and make sure he was good with where everybody was headed, direction-wise, before I have everybody reach out,
It would have been nice working with a really good friend. Yeah, we
the
would.
bookstore one.
Yeah,
So you both chose the bookstore.
so I'll tell him that when he goes to meet him, can I go with him, just hang out?
So, so yeah, once I know what Sharice is gonna do too, this is the thing I was struggling with on choosing the project is, personally, I prefer to work on applications as opposed to marketing sites,
Right.
but, and they're completely different, right? We haven't really done a lot of marketing sites,
Right.
so I don't wanna leave you with not knowing how to build a marketing site, but I lean towards application development, so.
Either way. I feel like personally, in my future, I would love to do more marketing.
So what I could do as well is I could assign this one and you can choose between the Kanban and like a marketing site one.
That'd be cool. I would definitely pick the Kanban personally. It'd be cool.
Don't give me too many options.
Don't give me too many
I'm
options,
not
damn
gonna be
it.
able to decide.
So this one's just looks like kind of a more just marketing. There's no store, there's no,
I'm a visual person, so I'm more attracted to those kind of sites. Visual stuff involved.
so yeah, I'd rather build like
Yeah.
a web app or a game
Yeah.
than this. But I'm not gonna do the game one.
I know,
I feel like
that's okay. I mean,
game's a different beast.
yeah, it is. I'm still stuck on the,
Pac-Man game that you
yeah,
started.
man, I'm still there, bro. I've never let that go. Still never do that.
So, if you guys want, I can also do like one of these two, and you can choose between the Kanban and whichever of those two. Is that something you're interested in, or should I just keep the Kanban? And everybody build the Kanban. The main problem with having something different is if you want to work together, then you have to work with whoever's
Please
building.
don't come by and.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I'm more good with the Kanban, but that's just because like, personal things I'm not really working on it. I feel like the marketing thing could be simpler, like, you would have to just
Yeah.
create like a,
And it takes up a lot of space, so. It's not so many details.
Mm,
For me, it's not. Like each product, each thing on the page takes up so much space.
I think the challenging thing would be like to set up a shopping thing.
No cart?
Yeah. Also, marketing sites are typically more complex when it comes to showing it at different sizes,
Oh, yeah, you're right.
right? So like,
But things
Yeah.
change like.
you have
Yeah.
Trello, which is kind of what we're building, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when I go to like my startup tasks, this is how it scales. Is it just like, it just slides like it. It's just, it doesn't really scale. They kind of make these all break down so that there's less visual. They hide some of this or whatever. But then you go to, this is essentially that other marketing site, right? It's got a store, you can check out, you can see different products. Okay, but as I get smaller, it's more graceful,
Mm-hmm.
so that it will work on any size screen. Right, so you can see like, even the images change sizes.
Yeah. Well, not really good stuff. No? We have, we do not working on it. And even if I'm not doing this project, I'll still, I'll have everything.
This one you'd probably need to use Redux because like if you came here and hit add to cart, you've got a store that they've added to the cart somehow, right? So I would store that in a Redux state, and I would also push it into a local storage, so if they left and came back, their cart would still be there. Right? That's, I mean, the rest of it is pretty much just routing.
How far would it go, since we're not, obviously using
It would just get to this point, right? So if you hit continue and pay,
We would say, sorry,
yeah.
You're not a real person.
this is a fake store.
No.
You could have it so that if they fill it out and you hit continue and pay, it does some sort of loading, I mean,
So,
right?
question on this,
Or a thank you page.
when you do this, do you usually connect like a third-party app or something?
Yeah. So the one that I think of off the top of my head is
Oh, I see. Yeah, I think, I think that it would be best to, like, personally to have this under like a portfolio.
Right. No more practice.
Yeah, that sounds very,
I am
Please,
absolutely shitting my pants right now, like, I'm so scared.
I like your expression there.
okay. So I'll put together this one
Shitting her
and
pants.
then put it on there as well. I'll need to do it probably tomorrow. So, well, the more time I take, the less time you have to finish it. So, I wonder if I can find somebody that does it easily.
I'm gonna take a short.
Woohoo! I would like you guys not to go look up somebody else's solution and build their solution though, or copy their solution. But it looks like somebody built this. Ooh.
Audio file? Audio file?
did a pretty good job.
So that's the question. Does it have Redux in it? Yep, he's got Redux in it. So he's got
I wouldn't
cart
spell file that way.
and UI,
Mhm.
so he can show the
I
nav.
wouldn't spell the word file, like PHILE. Cause like, it makes you think,
Yeah, yeah.
Say
Well,
pedophile.
it means that
Huh?
I just feel like there's some subliminal messaging
They're
there.
looking at
For this, Redux,
I know it's a weird way to
he's
spell
just
file.
nav. So when I click this button,
associated with pedophile.
he's just setting this to true or false, and that's what shows the nav.
Super rough.
Let's see. That's all the UI is doing. And then he's got
Look, he
items in
has
the
a-
cart and the total, so he can show the total here.
That's cool. I actually need to learn that for the bookstore, so
Mhm.
you do this column statement.
Right? So since these are all the same item, you notice he just updated the quantity of that same item. Check to see if the ID was in there. If I go to something else, see product, add it, it should add a second thing. That has a different. So I think I could probably steal all the assets from this guy though. So this will make it a lot easier for me. Let's see, does this one switch? What? This is like the topics. And then when you hit the product, then it goes into a product page. unfortunately, I couldn't find anybody that had built the Kanban app, so I can't show you a working version of it. Yeah, it's just Trello with a different design. So, and he's using some, I mean, the way this fades in and stuff is just different animations he's using. Same with, if we scroll down, you get these, I don't know that those are actually loading on the page slower.
I just had thought that's what the best word is in the like 10,000.
Oh, he does. So he's making some where the hell? Okay, so he's using a Next, which is another Next is another framework that wraps React, so you can do a full stack app. And I'm assuming he's using that so that you can get some of this stuff for free that he's doing, where it loads in slower.
Instead of Provider.
No, Next is like a, you know how our website is Gatsby? Next is same kind of deal, just a different framework to wrap React with. So go to Next.js. It's a framework for React. Yeah, so Hulu's built Next. I didn't know that. So yeah. So I haven't ever used Next before, but people really like it. So yeah. Okay, so I'll get this put together then as well. All the assets for it. Which hopefully shouldn't be too hard. And maybe we'll just copy his product tables. It's one of the paid for ones. It's a premium one, so is the other one. So that's why I got still it. Yep, so that's why I got still it. So okay, so I'll get that put together then, and then once it's up, I'll let you know. You guys can choose between the two apps or the two projects. The Kanban or the marketing site, the e-commerce site. Okay, hour left. What other things are you struggling with in React or Redux? We will go over.
I wouldn't say there's a particularly struggling or anything, it's just I haven't really had time to sit down with everything in my inbox. So I mean, if I want to just go through example to do it, then I'm down to it.
The other option we could do is we can continue on the bookshelf. The bookshelf does do, so if I go node go, we finished data fetching, right? Pretty sure. I'm pretty sure we did. So there's authentication, routing, which we've done, cache management, which would be like data fetching and then knowing when you should fetch again, right? Context, which we just learned, so adding some global state. Compound components, which I'd have to go look at what he means by compound components. Performance, so what things you can do to optimize the performance within the app. Render as you fetch, so showing some sort of loader or, you know, not rendering until you have the data. Unit tests, which are a way to catch bugs. So you write a test that makes sure that your thing can actually render, and if it only got this data, what would happen, and if it only got this data, what would happen, and what should it do, and that kind of stuff.
That part was really interesting in the Redux, because he did all that,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, I didn't understand how he came up with the test and like,
Yeah.
what we need to test.
Okay, so tests are important so that when you change something, if you broke something somewhere else because you changed some function and you didn't realize somebody else was using that function, right? Then you can run tests across your app and then it'll tell you, hey, this thing's broken now. Gives you confidence in being able to push your stuff out and not having bugs that you created by fixing something else. So then it goes into testing hooks and components. So unit tests, testing hooks and components. Unit is typically like, here's a function, let's test this function like seclude this function and test it only, right? Hooks and components is write tests that would make sure those hooks return what they're supposed to, write tests that make sure that if I look at that component and I click it in a certain way, it reacts the same way. Integration tests is where I am supposed to be able to click my next button and it goes and gets a joke and it gets a joke back. So it would do that whole flow of making the call out and then checking what comes back from the server, right? And then end-to-end testing is all of it. So end-to-end testing is like an app that runs your app and then clicks on it and goes through different flows and checks different things. So the testing stuff, this really dives deep into the testing stuff because that's what he does, is he wrote like a library for testing React and has like a whole entire video and like a full site around React testing and learning how to do it and how to do end-to-end testing within React and all the different things. So all of those things he has huge tutorials and workshops around. So that's why there's so much around testing in this workshop that he does. But would it be worthwhile to go through these? We can jump in and do some of it and see if maybe we skip some of the bonus ones so we can get through it quicker.
I'll also be down to go over context and then just see another part.
Okay. So, do we want to work our way to it, or do we want to just skip to it? Yeah. So maybe we just go through, and then I don't know what he's doing for routing, but routing can get more complicated than what we did for planets. We only created one route, and then a redirect to that route. So I don't know how many routes he has in here, but this is a bookstore app, so essentially just doing somebody else's capstone project right now.
Honestly though, what if this guy was just like, no, I don't want it? Then
Honestly,
Well,
no, he's
He approached us though, right? From that list?
Mm.
Oh, okay.
Only there's like 3 on there that I actually had were listed as interested.
No, there was more than 3.
No.
I swear there was a lot.
There are more than 3 on the list, but interested.
Oh,
Yeah, not all the
interested.
listed ones.
So these are the only ones that we've actually talked to?
We're gonna go to
That
partnership
confirmed,
to
yeah.
talk to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do
But
that.
I think I heard
I
like
live right
some
down the
people
street.
at
Yeah.
one museum
He's
were
a good
interested
guy.
in it.
Okay.
Japanese grandma already has a Cave Bar website.
Yeah, they, but
Do
they
they?
kick nasty,
They have
terrible
really
service
nice-
outside. You don't deserve life.
Oh, wow.
That's pretty nice. Yeah, I did remember they had, I mean, just like Hawaii Pasta, remember when Hawaii Pasta first opened up? Come on, remember when Hawaii Pasta first opened up?
No. How long ago was
The
that?
reason I remember them so well is the website.
Really?
The new website, there was like that.
Yeah.
Remember the,
I totally
you remember the
that. That was
tomatoes?
the first time I saw like
tomatoes?
a minimalist.
Yeah.
like-
they
You know
had,
who
like,
that is?
Tomatoes, they had the different colored tomatoes that were
Oh
peeled.
my
They're like
gosh.
the web design company on,
On Kauai.
yeah.
Oh yeah, Jackson.
This is who your mentor used to work here.
That's right.
Nani?
Yeah,
Nani used to work there.
Really?
Yeah, before she started her own thing.
They updated their website now too.
Jackson?
Yeah. 'cause
Oh, it was
they-
over Lipgate.
Jack?
they're-
Nani
what
may
they-
have made this,
Huh?
and she may have, but this is the only page that they have.
Cause
They're doing a new one right now.
well, they had one before that was kind of shit. And I was kind of appalled by the fact that they're a digital marketing and web design company that had a really ugly website.
Yeah, the other one
So
that was
who-
on
who
here
Jackson?
is,
What is this?
This is a like digital marketing company.
Jackson.
Yeah.
It's a local, it was local, huh?
Uh-huh.
Wow, that's pretty.
Jackson's the name of their son.
Yeah.
I met with them a little bit ago. But they cost like, $2,000-$3,000 just to kind of get started with them.
Nice. Now, the great
this is
one.
the other one that's what, was started here, is this Kahuna Marketing.
And so Jackson took their
Big 12.
their website.
What is the Big
and put it
12?
on Japanese
What is the Big
grandma.
12 symbol doing on there?
No, this is very common. This is
Yeah.
called parallax scrolling.
Yeah.
Super common.
What is the Big 12 symbol doing there?
Where?
Up the top. Big 12, no, the bottom? No, always the bottom. But
The top of
the
the
top of
lines.
the, yeah, with the Big 12.
They probably did some, they worked with them.
Oh, okay.
There's some other ones as
So
well.
the dude that owns this was in my church. He just moved off island.
Football matters. Why does everybody got a mess around, man? It matters. This football matters.
Oh my god.
I really hope that's not right. So.
Yeah, some
I-
play, some play.
That
Some,
better have
it
happened
depends on
before.
when they created it.
Yeah, it does.
I don't know what it is.
I like how you did respond to my planets matter. Two little like, yeah, planets lives matter. I did a planets lives matter to them when you didn't respond. Oh, maybe that's a little over the top, too different.
I don't know. All right.
How could you? All right, where we at?
So, but yeah, this is another one that's here.
Yeah.
So I wonder, does Jackson Communications have a GitHub?
The Jackson.
Yeah, I don't think that's it. So probably not. Anyway, yeah, this could just be like a So, like, so Gatsby is a framework that builds around React, right? And you can go on, like, there's a ton of different sites that have templates that you can just go download, and
This is
then
what you used for,
yeah, we just bought a template from like Theme Forest, and I just changed the data, and that was it. So, I told Rich I don't have a lot of time, so that was what we did. So, So a lot of marketing companies will do stuff like that, or they'll build a template or buy a template and then change it. So, could very well be what this is. And that order online takes you to a different app. Yeah, Square site. Alright, let's jump into this guy. So jump into your bookshelf, do node go and go to authentication, which is number 4, and npm start. Something's
You
already
said,
done.
you said go to start extra, what do
The bookshelf,
Yeah, no, but,
node go,
yeah, no, but.
change exercise.
And which one after that?
Number 4, authentication. What am I running? Is this running? Yes. Alright, so what the make it?
We are about to land very soon.
Sweet. Alright. So applications without user authentication cannot reliably store and present data tied to a specific user. Every request client makes must include this token. So we talked about this a little bit, right? When you're doing when apps use authentication, they typically use JWTs. So it's a token that the standard the standard token uses a JWT, which stands for JSON Web Token, and that's just a standard architecture or like pattern for what that token should be. But the way that they typically work is when you fetch, you send in your headers this authorization. You want to do that.
Sorry, what do you mean by token?
So token is just a string,
It's like,
but it's a standardized string. So let's
unique for each person,
it's
right?
unique for
So it's like, like an encryption key, that probably have all the,
So-
like that.
so this is an encoded JWT token, and when you decode it, it looks like this. So essentially what you're doing is you're creating this information about a user, and then you're encoding it into this JWT, and you give it back to the user. And to decode it, you have to have a specific algorithm or like a key phrase, so that when I'm passing it back and forth between me and my server, a man in the middle can't pull it and then get all the information and know how to log in to.
It's a security.
Yeah. Okay. So, but yeah, typically you get like a signed JWT token, which has some information. It doesn't usually have all the information. It's this kind of is more of what it would be, right? So it has the user's name, maybe the user ID, the email, something like that. It's some sort of token that allows the server to know that you are authenticated as that user. No, there's different libraries that you use to create the token. The server is who's going to create the token, and then they're going to send it back to you. Okay, so when you do a login, a lot of times when you authenticate against the service, it's going to send you back the token, and then you have to store that token, and then send that token in every single request that you make. Okay, and that's what this is showing. This is an example of what you would do. You would make this call, and then on your headers, you'd add an authorization, and then you'd give it this bearer token. So you'd write the word bearer, and then give it the JWT. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, notice they're calling this auth provider, getting the token, setting the token here, and then setting the headers and fetching. So let's see, learn more about this. In React applications, you manage your user's authenticated state the same way you would manage any state, the use effect or a use state. When the user provides a username and password, you make a request, and if the request is successful, you can then use that token to make additional authenticated requests. Often in addition to the token, the server will also respond with the user's information, which you can store in state and use it to display the user's data. The easiest way to manage displaying the right content to the user based on whether they're logged in is to split your app into two parts, authenticated and unauthenticated. Then you choose which to render based on whether you have the user information. When the app loads in the first place, you'll call your auth provider API to retrieve a token if the user is already logged in. If they are, if they are, then you can show a loading screen while you request the user's data before rendering anything else. If they aren't, then you can render the login screen right away. So here is our exercise. Users are excited about the demo, but they really want to start making their own reading lists out of those books. Our backend engineers have been working around the clock to get authentication stuff working for you using a service called Auth Provider. Very clever name, it's a made up thing, but it should give you a good idea of how to use any typical authentication provider, which is the point. Here's what you need to know about Auth Provider. You import star as auth from Auth Provider. All the exports you'll need are get token, login, register, and log out. To make an authenticated request, you'll need to get the token and attach an authorization header to the request set to the bearer token. As for the UI, when the user registers or logs in, they should be shown the Discover page. They should also have a button to log out, which will clear the user's token from the browser and render the home page again. Okay, so we're going to jump into our app.js. It's app.exercise.js. And we're going to start making it so you can log in.
Yeah,
Sweet.
fun.
Okay, so first thing is we'll just go through all these comments in app.js. Okay, so it says you're going to need this, so just uncomment that. This pulls from the auth provider. If we go look at auth provider, he's setting local storage, but he's just has these functions that are mimicking a API, okay? So he's actually just storing your login information in local storage, and then based on you calling for it, he goes and gets it from local storage and then sends it, and he's creating a client for it. Does that make sense? So we're not actually hitting an API, we're just hitting a fake one that's within here. And this is how you would create a fake API. Alright, so first thing we need is use state for the user. Create a login function that calls auth.login, then sets the user const login equals form, auth.login form, then set user. Create a registration function that does the same as login except for register. Create a logout function that calls off logout and sets the user to null. If there's a user, then render the authenticated app with the user in the logout. If there's not a user, then render the unauthenticated app with login and register. Okay, so we'll start with some state here in function app. And if we look at what's here, we're seeing the unauthenticated, right? So he said there's also an authenticated app, which looks like broken. Probably needs a user. Yeah. So yeah, you have to pass a user and a logout function to this one, so that's why it doesn't render. Okay, so first we're going to create some state for the user. So let's go const user set user equals use state. Because that's what it automatically did, because he imported star as React here. Okay, create a login function that calls the auth login. Oh look, he gave us one for free. Let's form. Create a registration function that does the same as login except for register. Did he tell us what they need to register with if they have to register? Oh, it's just username and password as well. Okay. Create a logout function that calls auth logout. So const logout equals auth.logout. Then set user. And we'll just set it to null. I'm going to start it as null too. If there's a user, render the authenticated app with the user. So let's do if user authenticated app user equals user logout equals logout. Okay, and then if there's not, then it will automatically do the unauthenticating with login and register. Okay, so login register equals register. Is that it? So if I hit login and I say test@test.com, password is test, and hit login, there's an error, invalid username or password. Interesting. So what if I register first? Test@test.com, password test, registered, log out, log in, test@test.com /test. It works. So you have to register before you can log in, because it's looking at local storage, looking for that user. So now if we go look at our local storage, then we have users. And I have, yep, Harry Potter.
Eyeball.
Add Harry Potter to my list.
That time of year.
Hocus Pocus.
Oh, yeah, I watched that.
I haven't yet. No spoilers.
I'm not spoiling
Haven't
it.
watched this anyone yet?
No. Denise is planning a party for it. Yes. Yes.
Is your login on the bottom? It says on the page, it says login.
And this works because he's already set these up, right? So he already has them set up to pass form, registration automatically already knows how to handle form. So all we had to do is pass through the data in this one. So let's see what the bonuses are, to decide if we want to do them. People were complaining that when they refresh the app, shows them the login screen again. Does it? Refresh. It does. Luckily, the backend devs gave us an API where we can get the user's information by providing the token. So I think it would be good to do this. Token await auth.get token, if token. Logged in, let's get the user's data, else we're not logged in, show the login screen. Don't have to re-enter their username and password if the auth provider has the token already. Also need to add the ability to accept the token option in the client and set an authorization header. Remember, it should be set to bearer token. Okay, so I say let's do this one. Yeah, okay, let's do this one. Okay, so open up your terminal, write node go. We're going to start extra credit. And extra credit number 1. Or open a new terminal. Split terminal is Command Shift /. You'll split your terminal in 2.
Okay, so what are we doing now?
Node go,
Yeah.
extra credit,
Yeah.
number 1. Yeah, it's Command Shift /. Or you can just click this little icon right here. It's like the split thing.
Yeah. And then start showing, and then I have a exclamation.
That sounds hazardous.
See how it's still nice and cool here without the air conditioning? It's because it's that time of year. I don't need the air conditioning.
It turned the ACL back on, I think.
It's a little neat, I mean, it's, because it's wet, it's actually so cool outside, yeah, but you don't need it. It's not so,
It's been like 4 days that it's been up there now.
yeah, so, it's a cold front coming, so we're good.
So late.
I know, Hawaii style. It's so cold, it's so neat.
I really love it.
That's the best. So comfortable for the skin.
Even just the subtle changes are just so happy.
Well,
Yeah.
it's nice because it's not freezing. Like,
Yeah.
It's cold.
Cold, it's nice and chill, but
Cold at like.
yeah, it's just kind of like, you can,
6
you can put a little blanket across you,
Yeah.
you're fine.
Yeah. I can still wear shorts, but this now gives me the option to wear pants and not sweat if used to.
Exactly.
This is my favorite time of year,
Yeah?
totally,
Yeah.
weather-wise.
I can already tell that I miss the sun.
Really?
The past few days, like especially today, I was just like,
You can't live in Sweden.
Enjoy it.
I know.
You can't live in
Sweden,
Seattle.
Seattle, I
Yeah.
can't do cloudy. I
Can't
wake up
do
in the
cloudy.
morning and go to the ocean in the night.
That's why I'm really lucky about living with my family. I have 2 members of my family that need the sun.
Yeah,
So,
I'm on that.
yeah.
Which sucks because that's probably gonna be like, I'm gonna get skin cancer and that, but.
So, Tina's turning 2 years old in 2 days.
Okay.
Yeah, 2 years old.
You fix it?
Yeah, I just quit VS Code and restarted it.
Turn it off, turn it back on.
Yeah,
Those things are too good.
I know. My kids like those
Stop it.
Extra credit on.
until they found out they were vegetables.
Like shower for him.
Extra credit on.
Yes.
Vegetables, Dad. Did you eat ketchup on it? You can ketchup with those fries.
He would, and then he would just dip and suck the ketchup off of it. It'd just be
Use the
like,
straw.
It's
He
a-
would use the straws.
it's a vegetable
It is a
spoon.
conduit.
Yeah, it's a vegetable spoon.
I wonder if he's gonna hate ketchup when he's older.
When he was younger, he would only eat the green ones because it's his favorite color. It's his favorite color.
No, it's the flavor.
No, green is his favorite color. All right, so let's open up the app.js again, app exercise. Okay, so let's see. And then let's open up the API client exercise. That's because it's not the right one. Just looking at what they have. No, the exercise one. All right, so you can give us any of the.
So you're exercising, right? Okay. Oh, 18.
Okay, so what we need to do is we need to first get the auth token, and then check if they have an auth token, and if they do, then we get the user. Should client endpoint custom config. Okay, so he wants us to hit the endpoint with the custom config with the which is token. Pushing off provider. Get token gives us back the local storage token. And then it's this client. Right? Just using the API client. I'm confused what we're supposed to do with this. Well, let's try and see, based on what he showed here, if we do essentially this in app. Add the ability to accept token option in the client and set that in the authorization header. And he says to do it in API client JS. So in here we need to accept a token. Doesn't make sense because I'm not sure who's even using this one. Oh, okay. This one's using it.
Yeah, right, that way.
Yeah. Just want to look and see. Okay. Alright, so what we want to do is this custom config is going to be an object like this instead. Then we're going to take a token and a custom config, which is going to be should just be that. And a custom headers, because then we're going to need in our config to have a headers which says if there's a token or I think how to do this. First we need custom headers here, and then we would do authorization. Bearer, and then the token. I need to have this be optional in the headers. I'll do this for now and see if it blows up on us. Okay. So once you have that, then we go back to app exercise, and we're going to follow what he did on this instructions. So we're going to check if there's a token. If there is a token, we're going to go get it, the user, and then otherwise show the login screen. Okay, so we'll say what was the get token? Is it? Okay, it's a wait. So I'm gonna use a use effect. Actually, I don't want to do a token. I just want to do it right here and say say, we're gonna create a function here that is wrapped and calls itself and is async. Okay, so this is an immediately invoked function expression. Okay,
What's even happening?
what's happening?
Yeah, it's calling itself.
So what we're doing is we have this async function, okay, and inside of it we're gonna have this, we're gonna have something that will go get our login, right? So do const token equals await off dot get token, okay? And then we say if token, then client is it me? That's what it was called? Yeah, me. Token. We can actually say const user equals, or is it user? Or was given back to us data? Const data equals await client, and then we can say set user data dot user. Okay, so the reason this is mad is we either need to say const, you know, or like async function and name it, right? So const get token equals, and then we call get token down here. And that would work, right? Or rather than have it like this, we can get rid of the name on it and we can make it an iffy, which you put in parentheses. Okay, so now we have this function, it's in parentheses, meaning if I was to save it like this, it would just take off the parentheses. See how I took them off? Because right now the parentheses are just like on your return, where they're just there for shows. Okay, they're not doing anything. But if I add parentheses afterwards, then that calls the function that's in this parentheses,
Cool.
even though it's not named. So it just automatically calls it, and it's called an iffy, which stands for immediately invoked function expression. Okay, so we have this function expression. Take off the semicolon. The semicolon was there because it was like trying to,
When I say it.
yeah. Oh, even with the, oh yeah, okay. This is because he's not using semicolons. So, yeah,
Because he's not using them as coding there?
yeah, 'cause, yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
It's to keep from whatever is above it from somehow getting attached to it, even though there's nothing above it in this case. But if we had like some other expression here, like const life equals true, okay, because we're not using semicolons, then this function expression would run into this life thing. And so this is to keep this expression from being tied onto the line above
What
it.
did you call it, client? I don't know, like, what do you call client? I don't see
Right here.
the word client, yeah, where, besides it,
That's the only place I called it.
okay, cause it's, you know, that's pretty,
Oh, it imported up here.
you did import it?
I thought it was already imported, but maybe I did import it.
Oh, good.
I think it did pop up and I selected it.
Okay.
Okay, so I think that should just work. Maybe refresh. Yeah, I get like a blip, which I don't know if his is getting a blip.
Yeah, it goes back to the home screen and silence. So, you might do it.
Yeah, which we probably don't want to blip, but I'm wondering if that's what his next.
Just if we're going to it.
Well, I mean, what we could do is, what we could do here is we could set a token. And if there is a token, then we set token to whatever the token is. Actually, let's do it down here so we go get the token, the actual token, or go get the user, and then we'll set the token. And then here, instead of just if user, we can say return token, question mark. Let's see. That won't work. Instead of token, let's do loaded and set loaded. And for now, we're going to say false. And then down here, we're going to say set loaded true. And I'm going to do it after the if statement, not inside of it. So it'll always do true after this function runs. Okay, and I'm going to say if not loaded, null, else, user. Why is that mad? Oh, I didn't name this correctly. There we go. Okay, and now it will just take a second to actually load as opposed to going to the logged out and logged in. Does that make sense what that's doing? This is an if else instead of just, or an if else, if else, or this is the if, this is the else, this is the if else. And this is the if of the if else, and this is the else of the if else.
you-
Exactly.
Your const loaded, set loaded, equal reactor.
Equals react.use state false. So yeah, so we added this line here, and then we added this line here, and then we added this.
Loaded.
So not loaded, make sure you have not loaded, and then
So
it'll,
if it's not false.
yeah, so React components can return either UI or null, right? So if you return null, that's a valid thing for a React component to return, it just won't.
You took that out, didn't you?
Yes, it token's gone. So, and that way, it won't render anything because it returns null. So we can return that null, and it won't render until loaded is true. And once loaded is true, then we check the user, and if the user exists, we do the authenticated app, and if it doesn't exist, we do the unauthenticated app. So if we were to log out and now refresh, it'll check the token and notice it's a lot faster. It doesn't really sit on anything. It immediately knows there's no token because this get token is fast. If we go to that get token function and we say set timeout. Oh, this doesn't even return a promise, so. that won't work. Anyway, if we change this so that it did return a promise and made it slower, then it would not show the login for just a second. And then it would pop up afterwards. But for now, we do get the token back. And then the reason this one does go away and then come back is because we have to make a second call to get the user. Okay? If we look at our network, we should see a call to me, which gets and gets the user back. Yeah, so this just makes it so without the code we just wrote, anytime you refresh the app, it was taking you to the login screen and you had to re-log in. So this persists that user. Okay? Any questions on that one? Should we try and do the next one? I guess let's go read what the next one is. Yes, let's go read what it says. Use async. Your coworker came over because she noticed the app renders the login screen for a bit while it's requesting the user's information. No, it doesn't. We fixed that. She then politely reminded you that you could get loading state and everything for free by using her use async hook. Let's update app.js to use async and solve this loading state issue. She mentions you'll need to know that you can get the data directly. Set the data directly. You'll use this for login and register when it is loading or is idle state. You can render the full page spinner from components lib. If you end up in an error state, you can render this. Okay. So yeah, let's switch over. Yep. Node go. Start extra credit. Number 2, use async. Okay, so interesting. That's what he was doing. Okay, so it's essentially the same thing we did, but we didn't take that out there. Okay, so we are going to use the use async hook. So we'll say use async to get it to import. So and then we'll call it, and this way I don't have to know what's in it, so that I can just do this. Data error is idle is loading is reset run. So I remember the run is there. Please show an example of how to use it again. Something async then. Set data. I thought you had to use the run thing.
Yeah, I agree. I'm thinking about, okay, why don't you go lay down in the parking lot for an hour somewhere? Take a nap.
Maps, man,
That's what it's at, yeah. I usually sleep, nap at 3 different places. I nap at the Dragon Building, or at Marshall. Yeah, I go nap. Well, in the car. Yeah. That's where I used to live there. I used to live in that building. And right there. Exactly. I'm
Alright, so this is what we're gonna do. Instead of doing that, because the data and set data from use async is gonna be these, I'm just gonna do F2 and rename this to data
Ooh.
and F2.
Two, yeah.
If you don't, if you have, do you have a touch bar? Then the F2 button at the top.
Oh, God.
Sorry, we have, hit F in and then.
Yeah, you have to hold the function button. Okay,
In here.
hold the function button and then hit F2.
And that means all of them.
Yes, that way we didn't have to go through and do it all. Then change these to curly braces and change this from react.useState to useAsync. Okay, so why is this mad? Set data. Okay, it's not mad no more. Alright, then we should get is idle, is loading, is success, is error. What else is in here that we need? Did we say we needed all that stuff? Yes, we need error and run, but I don't know why we need run. Error and run. Okay, so now I think we can say run that one. Is that right? No, that's broken now. I don't remember how to use the run function. Please call back your promise. Oh, so it automatically sets data for us. So then we can just do this. Like that.
And then
Yeah, get rid of the then. Same thing with all these. Run, and then we just do this and get rid of the then. Run. Run. No, we don't do it. Run on that one. Okay. So, if you refresh, it should just work out working. Yes, it is. Then what we want to do is loading. We could just do if is loading, return. Let me say there was a loading component. What do you call it? Full page spinner. full page spinner. Okay, and then here's success and data. If is error, then he said to use this div. Return that div. Colors needs to get imported. Import star as colors from, now I have to remember where he had that. Was it constants? Styles. Styles, colors. Yeah, and then go copy this from the instructions. Don't type all that. Yeah, import star as colors from styles slash colors. It's this one right here. No, yeah, I don't know why we're gonna leave as idle, so I'm just gonna delete as idle. So technically, I don't think we need is success either, because if there's data, I just wanna load, I don't really care if it was successful, so I'm gonna remove that one too. And now I actually kind of want to make it error out. How do I make it error? Me with two E's. Uh-oh, there's a problem. Try refreshing the app. Failed to fetch. There we go. Okay. We did it! In exactly the amount of time too. It's 9 o'clock even.
Is it?
9:04.
Is it really?
But we were 50 minutes late today, so.
Yeah, we were. That's
Technically,
true.
we're early. You're leaving early today.
Yes. Sorry.
But no, luckily,
I was
that
videotaping
young-
my
that-
son eat
that young
ketchup.
man, that young man was actually, he needed 10, he was like in a meeting, he needed 10 extra minutes.
Good.
So it was a perfect day.
It worked
Perfect
great.
time. It worked great, but.
So when you have it, that, let me know next time.
I'm always there.